All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for attending the last Panhellenic info session. Before we begin, I just wanted to go over some of the features on today's webinar so that everyone is aware. This webinar has a Q&A feature where you could submit questions throughout the presentation, and we will be able to address them during the Q&A session. Our advisor is also here today with us to help facilitate and help answer questions in terms of like rules, regulations, and logistics. This webinar will also be recorded so that we can share and make it available for those that couldn't attend. I know a lot of you are wondering where the links are on in terms of like recruitment in general. So our advisor will be the one to like put the links in the chat so you guys can view it for your own convenience and stuff like that. It should be all on our website. Okay, so let's get started. Once again, we are the Panhellenic Exec Board that oversees the formal recruitment process for NPC sororities. My name is Kimmy, and I'm the Vice President of Programming. I'm a graduating senior with a major in international business. I'm from Milpitas, California, which is the next town over. And my most memorable sorority experience was running for philanthropy, or in simpler terms, representing my organization in a philanthropic competition to raise money for a good cause. So you get to see all these Greek communities come together and you meet so many new people and have a good time together.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Olivia Gerber. I'm the president of the board. I am an incoming fourth year double majoring in journalism and political science. And my favorite sorority memory was going to visit my organization's headquarters in Ohio with a few of my other sisters for a leadership training. It was really, really fun, and I actually learned a lot.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. My name is Lexi and I'm the Vice President of Standards. I'm going into my third year here at San Jose State as a liberal studies major, and I can't wait for you all to go through recruitment. My most memorable sorority experience was my first philanthropy with my house, which I was able to be very hands-on with.
Hi guys, for those of you that were at the first two sessions, welcome back. And for those of you that are new, I'm Noelle, the Vice President of Recruitment. I'm a third year English major here at San Jose State, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I am so very excited to meet all of you, hopefully sometime soon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and my favorite sorority memory was picking up my little sister because it showed me a sense of responsibility and love that was irreplaceable for me.
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you all again. I'm Ayana, I'm the Director of Marketing. I am a third year at San Jose State and I'm a communications major with a minor in musical theater. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and my favorite sorority memory is probably getting to move into my chapter house because I made a million unforgettable memories and incredible bonds.
Hi everyone, thank you all for coming to our last info session. It's really nice to see all of you again. My name is Sydney and I'm the Director of Recruitment Counselors. I'm a third year political science major with a minor in legal studies. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and my most memorable sorority experience was when I got my big, because she not only became my best friend, but also my mentor throughout the beginning stages of my college experience. I built a huge connection with her and I really consider her to be a part of my family. Even though she's graduated, we are still very close and have a really good relationship, and I know she's always going to be there for me.
So unfortunately, Jess couldn't make it tonight, but she is our Director of Scholarship.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming to our last info session. My name is Valerie and I am the VP Council of Administration on PHC Exec. I am a child and adolescent development major going into my third year, and I'm from San Francisco, California. One of my most memorable sorority experiences was when I was also picking up my littles, because going through that, I created new memories with them over the past year, and I got a lot closer with my big as well.
Okay, so I just wanted to take a moment to quickly recap some of the key topics that was discussed in last info session. The first segment, we discussed diversity. So in terms of diversity, NPC, our umbrella organization, is currently taking steps to further develop a safe space for women of all ethnic backgrounds to join and thrive in their member organizations. They've already taken steps through the formation of the Access and Equity Advisory Committee and encouraging each of its member organizations to take steps to improve their cultural competency. The next thing that we discussed in terms of diversity was a values-based recruitment experience. So regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, ability, etc., the true meaning behind recruitment is to find individuals who share the same morality and values as you. And the last thing in terms of diversity is that despite the exclusive history of Panhellenic Greek life, here at SJSU, our chapters have actively and verbally dedicated our time and energy to demolish certain ideals. And over the course of COVID, the Black Lives Matter movement has sparked a huge domino effect of activism within our own community. Our sororities have not only raised thousands of dollars directly donated to the Black Lives Matter Fund, but numerous sisters have also marched the streets of San Jose, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and etc. The second segment talks about what sisterhood actually means. Sisterhood can mean like different things for each individual. And in this segment, we shared what we thought the true meaning of sisterhood is, and the moments within our own chapters that made us truly feel like we belonged. In the last segment, we talked about why we went Greek. People decide to go Greek for various of reasons, such as meeting others, finding a support system, leadership opportunities, and etc. We were able to put our own personal touches in this segment, and we shared our reasons of going Greek and why we decided to stay. And that's pretty much it for the recap. Moving on to today's agenda, we'll be discussing 3 different segments as well. The first one being finances, second one being time management, and the third one being a realistic sorority experience. So please hold on to your questions until the very end, where we will open up the floor for discussion. First up, we have finances. We wanted to touch on the topic of finance, and if you're going to attend the PNM orientation, which is on September 2nd, you'll be receiving a pamphlet that indicates all of the dues of each organization. However, we wanted to address your concerns about finances here, just so you kind of have a general sense of like what you're getting yourself into. And we have Val starting off with the first slide.
Hi everyone, my name is Valerie again. So today I'm going to be talking about why it's important to pay your dues, and I'll be explaining what some of these dues will entail. So why are dues important? All chapters under the National Panhellenic Council, there's like a little glitch, I apologize. Okay, so all chapters under the National Panhellenic Council require some form of dues that individual chapters can operate. Being in a sorority requires a lot of responsibilities from making sure that you are attending these events, maintaining your grades, and paying your chapter dues. If a member does not pay their dues, they may be placed on bad standing with their chapter. Although there are some chapters that may provide members who need a little bit financial help, we still need to remember that paying dues is still expected of members when joining a sorority. These dues that you would be paying for help fund things like sisterhood events, philanthropy events, and many more. And we'll dive into some of the common dues that you will be required to pay when you go through your sorority experience in the next few slides. So just to note, as a disclaimer, that this year, a lot of the chapters have altered their dues to support their sisters and their members through COVID and quarantine. So that's why when you receive these financial transparency sheets later on throughout recruitment, you're going to see a different pricing between the fall semester and spring semester, because we're still, as a Panhellenic community, we're still planning as if spring semester will be in person again. So just a little disclaimer. So if you want, my dogs. So if you want to take, oh my God. So if you want to take a little screenshot of like the different ranges, so all of these fees are, so these fees are ranged from the lowest to highest. So when you receive these financial transparency sheets, definitely take into consideration these price ranges and see how these chapters are supporting their sisters through these unprecedented times. But yeah, so moving on to what fees that you would be paying for. The first one that I'll be talking about are national fees. So each chapter has its own national headquarters. Example, we have an Alpha Phi chapter here at San Jose State under the National Panhellenic Council. And for Alpha Phi, these national fees goes to Alpha Phi National Headquarters that manages all Alpha Phi chapters across the United States. These dues will be going towards the headquarters of a chapter's organization. So moving on, sisterhood events, sisterhood events are events that a chapter would host for their own members, like going to amusement parks, mini golfing, movie nights, and many more. These events give opportunities for their members to bond or socialize with their sisters. And then next we have social events, where your chapter hosts formal events where sisters dress up really cute and fancy and then just celebrate sisterhood for a night. And we also have study socials with other Greek organizations on campus. So that's where social events kind of go in with dues over there. And then lastly, we have philanthropy events where members are expected to pay philanthropy dues that goes towards a chapter's own individual philanthropic charity that they raise money for.
Hi, everyone. Just to recap, my name is Olivia. So more about our breakdown of fees. So there is a badge fee. Each member organization does have a badge or a pin. Some organizations require a member to purchase a badge, and others include it in their initiation fee. Badges may be very simple or jeweled. If a member is purchasing her badge, she's able to determine how much she would like to spend on it. And meal plans. Some chapters provide food services for their members. Every house operates differently. So if you are curious about this, please be sure to ask members about what their meal plan entails or if they have one. And parlor or housing fees. These fees go into keeping the maintenance of chapter houses, so to make sure that the houses are in good condition. And technology fees go towards supporting member databases. So these are just a few things to name. We don't expect you all to remember all of this. Please remember that we will be distributing an informational pamphlet at orientation on September 2nd, and that this webinar is also recorded so that you can reference it in the future if you need to. So how are things different right now with the pandemic? So in the past, there has been a fee to register for formal recruitment. This year, because of the pandemic, the Panhellenic Council has absolved the fee. So registering for recruitment this year is entirely free. Excuse me. Currently, the council is working with individual chapters on dues paid to the council to reduce those as well. The money collected by PHC is used for various expenses, such as sending the executive board to development trainings like Panhellenic Academy that's typically hosted in Indiana, covering programming expenses for Panhellenic events, and recruitment apparel for the executive board and recruitment counselors.
All right, thank you, Val and Olivia, for the breakdown of our finances. If you have any other questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature. We will be addressing them during the Q&A session. Also, remember, this webinar is going to be recorded and made available on our PHC website for you to access at any time. Now let's talk about time management. Joining a sorority requires time management. It's more than just partying and having fun all the time. So in a sorority, you learn valuable skills that will further help you along your academic experience or for your career development. We wanted to give you examples and personal stories of how we made it work.
Hi guys, I'm Noelle. So I kind of wanted to go into like expectations about being in a sorority. So going through recruitment, I had no idea what to expect. Similarly to most of you, all of these terms and Greek words being thrown at me was a bit overwhelming and confusing. I really had to step outside my comfort zone and put myself out there because I did know that I wanted a community of women in my new college environment. So the moment I stepped foot into my sorority house, I knew by the welcoming faces that embraced me for all that I am that I was home. I did not expect the love and encouragement to come so quickly and naturally. If and when you join a sorority, there's a certain level of understanding and comfort that comes right off the bat. I did not expect that I would find my best friend forever, my bridesmaids, my most trusted allies in life, and a support system that never let me feel alone. I had always struggled with finding my place and my purpose, and I was afraid moving 300 miles away from home, it would be more impossible than ever. But through Panhellenic Greek life, I found my community, and I am forever grateful for that. I'm sure it seems hard to balance academics, sorority life, work, family, friends, and extracurriculars, but honestly, I have never been more empowered to do more in my life. Since joining a sorority, I have been a vice president for my chapter. I just culminated from the Humanities Honors Program. I am the chief communications officer for the Pre-Law Society here at SJSU, and I was just accepted into the English Honors Program. And I'm an active member of 3 clubs on campus, all while maintaining my place on the Dean's List for GPA. So having a community that you know will support you no matter what gave me a sense of confidence that I had never experienced before. Something about wearing those Greek letters and knowing there are thousands of women across the country that share the same values and charisma that you do means everything. It might sound crazy, and I know that it is hard to understand, but I was in your shoes at one point, and we all were, and there's so much waiting for you in Greek life. And I hope you all get the same experience that I did by going Greek.
Hi, everyone. I'll just reintroduce myself. I'm Ayana. And I think that when I went into my sorority experience, I didn't think that it was going to be as genuine as it really has been. Not to say that I thought I wouldn't make any real connections, but I think that the connections I have made are some of the ones I cherish the most. I've not only made connections with sisters from my chapter and others, but I have also made connections with people that I've gotten to volunteer with and people that I've gotten to work with throughout my time holding positions. Being able to live in my chapter's house and live with my best friends, raise money for great causes, and having the opportunity to lift other women and myself up has been very enriching and something I wasn't expecting, but I wouldn't trade for anything. Currently, I have a part-time job and I'm taking 4 classes, one of which is 9 units. I hold the position on the PHC exec board, which requires me to run the social accounts and recreate our PHC website, which has been very time consuming, but also very rewarding. I also hold the position in my own chapter, which has its own obligations. I also try my best to have some sort of social life with everything going on, not just in my own life, but with the world. Before the pandemic, I was also involved in a musical where I was playing the lead, and that took up most of my weekends as well. Last semester, I received the best grades I'd ever gotten, even with online classes due to COVID-19, and felt as though I had nailed down my time management. What works best for me is using a calendar and making sure I don't double book myself. I'm an avid Google Calendar user, and it really helps me to be able to see everything in front of me. I also use a separate planner for my schoolwork so I can keep those 2 things separate and not get overwhelmed with everything I have to do. As for sorority life, it never really feels like a chore or something I feel the need to check off a list. I get to spend time with my friends or spend time working towards a great cause. It never feels like work, and I think that's what makes the days more fun.
All right, thank you, Ayana and Noelle, for sharing for sharing about time management. So time management is a skill that you will definitely learn from Greek life, and it's an optimal skill for you to have in the future. When you surround yourself with like-minded and driven women, it will push you past your fullest potential and motivate you to be ambitious and work hard. All of us here on exec have some sort of organizer to help us make it through the day. I'm pretty sure all of us have color-coded Google calendars, and we all feel some sort of satisfaction from it and being organized. For this last segment, we wanted to give you our final thoughts on a realistic sorority experience. It's not going to be rainbows and butterflies 100% of the time, and it's not always going to be how it's portrayed on social media. Yes, the connection, the feeling, and the genuineness are all there, but you have to remember that being in a sorority is a label, not a personality trait. We wanted to show you that we are more than our labels and that we are more than what others perceive us to be.
Hi everyone, again, I'm Lexi. Okay, so my overall sorority experience has been really great. However, when I first joined my house, I felt a little out of place. Yes, I was excited to go through the formal recruitment process and be in a new environment where I could feel connected to the girls of my age, but I had the initial thought that being in a sorority, you had to be super preppy and outgoing. Personally, I'm not the most outgoing person. I'm pretty reserved when you first meet me. With that, it was hard to find a group of people who I really vibed with in the beginning. I started to get pretty overwhelmed and thought that being in a sorority wasn't really for me. After joining my house, I became more open with people and really found people who I could relate to. I started to understand that being in a sorority doesn't mean that you have to look or act a certain way. If you're a more quiet person, then be confident in your silence. It took time, but I was glad I was able to open up to people and discover that I fit in really well. My house was able to accept me for who I am, and I didn't feel like I was pressured to change myself into something I'm not. When you're going through the formal recruitment process, it's important to remember that you're only meeting a few sisters out of the entire sorority. You may or may not feel connected to that sister, but please keep in mind that that's only one sister out of about 100 in the organization. Not everyone in a sorority is exactly the same, and that's what makes it great.
Hi everyone, I'm Sydney again, but I think the most important thing to know if you're planning on going through recruitment or just planning on being a part of any organization is that everyone does face challenges and barriers, especially throughout their sorority experience, and sometimes it even makes you want to quit and makes you question if the whole experience is really worth it. Everyone kind of goes through a time within their sorority experience where, they might consider consider dropping or feel a little out of place, or they're just not really having like the best experience. And that's completely normal, and that those things do happen. Just like anything you join, everyone goes through those barriers and those hardships. And we just wanted to be completely transparent with you all and kind of explain that it's completely normal if you do feel that way, or if you do feel a little bit out of place when you first join. For me, this happened specifically when me and another member of my chapter discovered that we didn't really get along with each other. This was intimidating for me because she happened to be an older member, and because of that, excuse me, my voice was cracking, but it automatically made me feel really insecure, especially as a younger member. It kind of made me feel in my own head that I didn't really belong, or that other girls in my house didn't like me just because me and her had our differences. And it kind of made me question why I even joined the chapter, because I didn't really get along with just one person. And when going into it, I automatically assumed that I was just going to get along with everyone, and everything was going to be like Kimmy said, all rainbows and sunshine. But unfortunately, that is not the reality of life. And I think it's really important to realize that just because you join a sisterhood doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get along with everyone, and that's okay. Throughout your life, you will come to realize that there are just some people you don't get along with. And like I said, that's completely normal, and that's fine. Just like if any of you guys have been a part of a team or a sport related activity. I'm assuming not all of you get along with every single member on your team, but at the end of the day, you guys are there for a greater cause and you find your group of people that makes you happy, and that's normal. You're not going to be best friends with every sister in your chapter, and some of them you might even have disagreements with. I realized that just because I didn't get along with one sister out of the 100+ girls within my chapter doesn't mean my relationship with my other sisters needed to be compromised. My sorority experience shouldn't be defined by my differences with just one girl. I've met my best friends, my roommates by joining my organization, and I've gotten the chance to get to know some of the most amazing girls I've ever met. And these women have supported me through some of the hardest times in my life, and they are the reasons why I choose to stay.
Thank you so much, Sydney and Lexi, for sharing your experiences. So now we are going to be opening up the floor for a Q&A session. So please feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask us some questions, and I will be reading them for the board. Okay, so first question. If I got approved to join a sorority, am I required to live in the house or may I stay at my own house? I am local to San Jose, and this will go to Lexi.
So I'm not sure about every single house on campus, but I believe it's not a requirement. I don't know if anybody else can elaborate. I believe it's not, but I think it's different for everybody.
It just depends on the house, really. Some houses require you to live in the house if you hold a specific executive position. So if any of you guys are considering leadership opportunities within your own chapters after you join, that's definitely something that you would have to consider. Most of the major executive positions in most of the houses require you to live in the house. So like president, vice president, property manager, anything like that, any sort of leadership council related position, you would most likely have to live in the house. I also know that some chapters do require you to live in for at least a year or at least a semester. I don't know the specifics of every house because my specific chapter doesn't have that requirement. We only have the requirement for girls who are on leadership council, but I do know that there are some chapters that require that. So that's definitely something to ask during your recruitment process. If you for sure don't want to live in the house, that's definitely something to ask the girls when you are going through recruitment. And if that's kind of a deal breaker for you, then that's definitely something to consider. But they could probably go more in depth about it during recruitment and you could get to know the specifics a little bit more.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Lexi and Sydney. Next question, are there commitments over winter, spring, and summer breaks for sororities? And this will go to Ayana.
Again, I'm not sure about every single house, but I'm assuming that most chapters, there aren't necessarily commitments, but we're always kind of preparing for the next thing that we're going to be doing. So some positions, if you decide to do a leadership opportunity, you will have to do some sort of work or maintenance over your breaks, and just like keep in communication with your chapter and with your advisors. But I don't think there's any sort of commitments or events that you would need to be attending, but it's always just kind of expected that you would keep in touch with your chapter, that you are making sure that you know what's coming up, and that if you do hold a position that you're keeping up with everything that you need to be doing and that you're working on so that it's ready for when you come back from those breaks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ayana. Next question. How much are the dues for Live Out active members per semester? And this question will go to Val.
I don't think she's on the call anymore.
Oh no, we lost her. Okay, so I will jump in. It is dependent upon the house. So it does vary across chapters, and like we did mention earlier, you will be receiving a pamphlet during orientation that will give the more specified breakdown of finances for each house, and then the difference between live-in and live-out dues. So next question. Why do the fee prices range so much? Is it based off of chapter? And this will go to Kimmy.
So the fees do range just because like you have to take into consideration special circumstances or I guess the position of the organization, which is why we provided you with a range and not actual numbers. If you do want the actual numbers, we will provide them for you on September 2nd at the PNM orientation. But we kind of wanted to address that because I know everyone had a lot of financial concerns. That's why we provided like a range. So with the lowest, that's probably what you'll be paying for, and the highest, that's probably the highest what you'd be paying for. I know that wasn't super helpful, but like at least throwing some numbers to get that kind of like going in your guys' head could be a little more useful. So yeah.
Thank you, Kimmy. Next question. How many people tend to live in each house, and how are the rooms divided? And this will go to Noelle.
Awesome. So I believe the sorority houses occupancy range from around 30 to around 60. I believe the largest house we have houses like 55 women. And I think it's pretty standard throughout all of the 6 chapters in their houses that they have either double rooms, triple rooms. There could be like 4 or 5 women to a room, depending on like how big it is. The presidents, I think, usually get their own room. And I think as you get older, and depending on how many years you've lived in the house, you probably get less roommates as the years go on. But I believe that generally it's between 30 to 60 women in each of the 6 houses.
Yep, and thank you, Noelle. And I will add to this that just as the on-campus dorms are taking precautions for COVID-19 prevention, the sorority chapter houses are as well. So the amount of women living in each house is significantly less currently, just so that we can make sure that members are taking the necessary precautions to stop the spread of COVID-19. So the next question is, can you join a sorority and a fraternity? And this question will go to Sydney.
All right, so the answer to this question is yes and no. If you're referring to IFC fraternities, which would be like Sigma Nu, Sigma Chi, like strictly just men's fraternities, the answer is no, unless you identify as a male. But if you don't, then just like male people could not join PHC organizations, we cannot join IFC organizations. However, there are academic fraternities that are co-ed that you can join if you decide. So for example, I am a member of Pi Sigma Alpha, which is a political science fraternity at SJSU. So if you guys are considering, wanting to join other Greek organizations on campus outside of the 4 major councils that we have, we do offer academic related fraternities, like I said, that are co-ed. And those are just based off of your major, and they're kind of similar to like what an honor society would be, and they have their own personal requirements. So you can join like other organizations outside of like PHC or other clubs outside of PHC, as long as they aren't like strictly male or strictly female, if that makes sense. If they are strictly female, feel free to, do that. But if they're male, then no. So I hope that answered your question. I know there's a lot of terminology and it can get kind of confusing, but hopefully that was clarified that a little bit better for you.
Thank you, Sydney. So next question, are there a system of fines for not attending an event? So I can answer this question. So yes, depending on the house, it does vary, but there is system for fines for not attending events. Typically, at least for my specific organization, there's multiple deadlines in which members can submit excuses if they need to be excused from an event because they have to miss for work or any other reason. They can go ahead and submit that and they will not be fined. But yes, there is a system of fines for not attending events. Does anyone else need to elaborate that?
The fines usually vary depending on what events you miss. So like bigger events are usually bigger fines. Also and then smaller events are smaller fines. But also one thing to keep in mind is that, and I feel like this is a very common misconception, is when you join a sorority, it is a commitment. So going into this experience, you kind of have to prepare that you are going to have to go to some events. And depending on the organization, some organizations are a little bit more choosy on what they choose to excuse and what they don't. As far as excuses go, I think it's also really important to note that just because at least for most organizations, I'm just speaking on behalf of my personal one, but from just what I know, I feel like this is pretty common. Just because you submit an excuse does not mean that it's going to be processed or accepted. So if you have prior commitments and you know for a fact you aren't going to be able to make a certain event, it's really important that you communicate that with your chapter as soon as possible, because like I said, some chapters are very picky on which what is a valid excuse and what isn't. So just to be prepared that you are signing up for this and there are events. You're doing this out of your own will, so just expect that it is going to be a commitment and you are going to have to go to stuff. And that just because you send an excuse doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get accepted. So to also prepare for those fines as well, on top of the other finances that you would have to pay for.
Yep. Thank you, Sydney. Next question, when and how will recruitment take place? I filled out the interest Google form, but what happens next? Great question. This will go to Lexi.
Okay, so recruitment is September 11th to the 13th with bid day on the 14th. And recruitment is on Zoom, as you all may or may not have known. I filled out the interest, but what happens next? You should probably just stay updated. I'd say with the website and the Instagram, we have a lot on there that can help you with that type of stuff too. If you have any questions, and the schedule for recruitment stuff is on there.
Thank you, Lexi. Next question, are there regularly scheduled study hours for members, or does the schedule come at random? And this will go to Ayana.
Again, I don't know how it is for every chapter, but I'm assuming, at least from what I know and have experienced, there are study hours. It is based off of your GPA. So however many study hours you have depends on how high or in a range of your GPA. And then those can be done throughout the entire semester. And then there will be a due date for when you need to turn those into someone who has the position of scholarship. And there will usually be study nights where you can do homework with sisters and work on it together. And you can also just track them whenever you're doing homework and then turn those in. And then if that's different from how other people do it, feel free to add on. But that's how I think it pretty much goes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ayana. So next question. Since everything is online this semester, are there requirements for things we have to wear for recruitment events? This will go to Val.
Yes. So because everything's going to be online this semester, us as PHC, we've definitely have emphasized that we do not want anybody, any members, active members, or any PNMs to have any financial burdens on their hands. So we don't want you guys to go out and spend so much money on like having outfits set up. So just make sure that you're in your own, like whatever makes you feel confident and comfortable, because you're still meeting people and you still want to look presentable and like, you know, show the best face forward, especially when you're going to be online through recruitment. So you want to like put all your efforts into like showing the best version of yourself when you're going through recruitment. And Noelle could add a little bit more if she wants to on this, but there is no required attire throughout the duration of recruitment.
Yeah, I can touch base a little bit on that. So normally, if it was an average year at the orientation, us as PHC would touch base on like what the required or suggested attire would be throughout the weekend. But obviously, since things are very different and like you guys are not all on campus able to like pick up a t-shirt or whatever it may be that normally would happen, it's very much going to be up to your own discretion of what you feel comfortable in. Obviously, at the orientation, I will still give like some kind of like guidelines more for your like benefit of maybe helping you decide like what direction you want to go in or whatever it may be. And also just kind of like the casual, because as recruitment goes on, each day gets, I guess, less casual. House chores is supposed to be very comfortable. Philanthropy is like a little bit more put together, a little bit like fancier. And then pref is a very like intimate ceremony and kind of like a more personal conversation basis. We can get way more into that during orientation and stuff like that. But yeah, normally there would be some more strict guidelines on what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, but now it's kind of more, since everything is online, it is just more of like suggestion based and kind of just like to help you guys figure out what you want to wear, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you, Noelle and Val. Next question, what happens if you aren't able to pay your membership fees after you join? Do you get kicked out? And this question will go to Kimmy.
So again, I'm pretty sure that every chapter has their own bylaws and policies, but in a sense, like you do want to pay your dues even after you get accepted, or else like I believe you get put on a certain status that could potentially affect your active status as a member of the organization. So I hope that kind of answered the question. Could you read me that one more time?
What happens if you aren't able to pay your membership fees after you join? Do you get kicked out?
Okay, so the second part of to answer, do you get kicked out? It kind of depends on the organization, because like some chapters, they will have kind of like payment plans that they'll walk you through and like they'll be willing to accommodate you with that. Other chapters, they are a little bit more strict in that sense. So when you do go through recruitment, we suggest that you ask each and every chapter about their financial transparency and what their policies are, just because we can't speak on behalf of all organizations, as everyone differs from one another. So hopefully that kind of answers the question, but we do want to keep giving you ideas on what to ask during formal recruitment.
Thank you, Kimmy. Next question, is the live-in fee the same as rent, or is rent separate? And this will go to Noelle.
Awesome. So in terms of like the physical payment, I know for my chapter, it is all in one place, but in terms of like the financial breakdown, you are paying for different things. So your dues are completely separate than the rent that you are paying. So the rent that you are paying is covering like the facilities, the utilities, and like the actual amenities that you are getting in the house, whether your house has like a chef or a house mom or like a parking lot or whatever it may be, you are paying to live there and you are paying for the amenities that come with it. But in terms of making the physical payment, I know for my chapter, it is all under one, like you make one transaction. It's all under a website called Greek Bill, and that is like where all of our like documents are signed, where everything is signed, and then that is also where you make your monthly payment. So I know for my chapter, it is one payment for the month, but it gives you a little bit of like a breakdown of what exactly you're paying for, in terms of like meal plan, in terms of your actual housing. And I know that can vary for other chapters based on if you have a triple or a double or whatever it may be, but it is not going to be like, the prices are not going to reflect each other. Dues will not be equivalent to your rent, vice versa. You're going to get a logistical breakdown of what you are paying for each specific thing. It's not just going to be a number thrown at you, and it's not going to be the same number for both, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you, Noelle. Next question, where can we find more information about the co-ed fraternities? Sydney?
So this is a really good question. For anyone who's wondering, I actually discovered about Pi Sigma Alpha through the SJSU website. If you go to like, I don't know the exact like logistics of it, but basically if you go to like SJSU's website and you look at the major, like where all the majors are, and then you click on whatever your major is, sorry, I just like skipped up on my words, but basically every major has their own individual website, and a lot of the majors will have like on the side like different clubs that they recommend that you join based on your major, or like an actual affiliated like fraternity with like their major, if that makes sense. Like I'm a political science major, so I went on the political science like major page, and then on the side I actually think they had like a drop down bar, and they basically said like clubs or like Greek life or whatever, and then you could click on that and then it would tell you where like those are. So if you're looking into a more academic related fraternity, or just any of the co-ed fraternities, most of the co-ed ones do happen to be academic based, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a really good way to look and see if they have one for your major. Another really good way to look at the different co-ed fraternities would be through the SAMI app. That is a really, really, really great resource. If you guys haven't downloaded that app yet, I really encourage you all to do so. It's just kind of like the go-to place to go for all of the information you might need for SJSU information. People sell textbooks on there. There's like QR codes for events that you have to scan through the SAMI app. Like it's just, you should really download that app. And there's also a lot of upcoming student org events that are coming up next week. So you guys could just keep an eye out for those. And there's lots of different clubs and organizations on campus. So even if PHC, you decide that this isn't really for you, there's tons of other councils and different organizations that you can join, and you will be just fine. So yeah, I encourage you all to keep updated with the student org events that are coming up next week, and just keep checking up on like the SJSU pages. Most of you guys get like update emails from SJSU, so just keep an eye out on those and really attend all of the like student org related events, because that's really how you learn about more of what we offer at SJSU on campus.
Thank you, Sydney. That was a great answer. So next question, what happens during recruitment? Yeah, okay, so what is this? What happens during recruitment? So recruitment is a 3-day process. Over the span of each of the 3 days, members who decide to go through the recruitment process visit on the first day, which is house tours, visit each house and have a conversation with members in each of the chapters, get to know them, visit each house for a specific period of time. It's typically the entire day, lots of networking, lots of meeting people, and then at the end of the day, you're presented with essentially kind of a ranking system in which you rank each of the houses on where you felt most comfortable and where you would like to return and talk to members again. And on the flip side, members do the same thing. So it's a mutual decision process. And then the next day, individuals going through recruitment are presented with a schedule that will direct them in which houses they will be visiting that day. Typically, it is less than the first day. So each day, individuals going through recruitment will visit less and less houses. So the second day, you're able to spend more time with houses that you ranked higher up that you would like to revisit, and vice versa. And once again, at the end of the day, you re-rank houses based off how comfortable you felt, and where you would like to visit again, and they do the same thing. The next day, the process repeats, and at the end of that day, you make your final selection process, and then the next day, which is Monday, that's bid day, we will designate a specific time where individuals still going through recruitment at that point will be notified and whether or not they are being extended a bid and from which organization they may be extended. They may be receiving a bid from, and that bid is essentially an invitation to join an organization. So Noelle, if you would like to elaborate on anything that I just said, please feel free to.
I think you pretty much got it. Sorry, I'm honestly answering questions by text or in the Q&A because I want to answer everyone's questions and we're running out of time. So I'm sorry, I've been kind of focused on that. But I think you touched base on a good amount of things. Obviously, everything will get more elaborated on as we get closer to recruitment, during at the mixers and the presentations that will take place there, as well as orientation. But I think for now, you kind of covered it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next question. Would we know the schedule of events for sororities in advance for the whole semester, or do members get notified on the week of the event? And this question will go to Lexi.
So again, I can't speak for every house, but I know some do have like calendars that all their members have access to, and they usually have either the whole month or maybe, I don't think it's usually the whole semester's worth of events, but it's usually the month. And you do know in advance. It kind of just depends on like what the event is, but I would say that there's like 99% of the time there's a calendar, and you'll know like a good amount of time before the event happens that you can know about the event.
Can I add a little bit?
Of course.
So some houses do provide you with the entire semester's worth of events, and just so that like you can know in advance, and the semesterly calendar, at least for some chapters, will be given to you the semester beforehand, and it'll be voted on, so you can have an opportunity to like tell your job, on this day I won't be able to attend work, or just so like if you're making a dentist appointment, doctor's appointment, whatever the case may be, you have the opportunity to make sure that you're not double booking, so you don't have to miss those events. Obviously things come up, but you are given those in advance, and there's usually like a programming position, and that a woman would be in charge of kind of creating that calendar and creating some of those events that are on the calendar, including like sisterhood events, or things like that, socials, or things of that nature. So that is like a leadership opportunity that is available. But yeah, you would know in advance, just so that, there isn't any mix-ups with double booking or having other things to do.
Yep, thank you, Ayana, for further explaining that. Next question, is the orientation mandatory? I'm gonna bounce it back to you, Ayana.
The orientation is mandatory. I honestly like don't really know. it's when you'll get like all of your information for like the actual days of recruitment, from the 11th to the 13th. So who your RCs will be, and who, just kind of a lot of information about how the week is going to go, like more in depth, in like a smaller setting, with your recruitment group, or who you will be, going through the process with. And if you have something to do, or you can't make it, just let someone on exec know so that we can further assist you in getting all that information to you. But if anyone else wants to elaborate.
Vicky just posted in like just between us, but she said that yes, it was mandatory because otherwise you wouldn't know how recruitment works. It's a really, really intense breakdown of recruitment. So all of your recruitment questions on how everything is going to work, how like all of like how it's going to be facilitated, the logistics of everything, that will all be answered at the orientation. And that's really important for all of you guys to know. So yes, it is mandatory, and class would be your only excuse for missing it. That's what she told. So, I mean, obviously if you have like work or something like pre-scheduled or like an absolute emergency, just let us know and we could probably work something out with you. But pretty much the only excuse that we would be considering would be class. So if you have anything else that why you can't make it, just let us know.
Thank you. And then our last question, because we do have to wrap up. What time will bid day take place? What if we have classes during the time we can meet everyone on Zoom? So I can speak on this a little bit just so that we can wrap up. Essentially, bid day typically takes place in the evening because it is on a Monday. Most people have classes on Mondays. If you will be having class conflict during that time, definitely please just let us know as soon as possible, after you've registered for recruitment. That way we can make arrangements for you to not be there. Okay, thank you everyone for all of your questions. Those were fantastic questions.
All right, and this concludes our last info session. Thank you all for attending, and if you have any further questions, feel free to send us a message through our Instagram page, which is at SJSU Panhellenic, or you can send us an email to our lovely president at phc.sjsu@gmail.com. We are super excited for recruitment and hope that you are as well. There are some important events coming up, such as the PNM orientation on September 2nd, and the mixers on the 3rd and 8th. September 10th is the last day to register for recruitment. Make sure you guys are following the PHC Instagram, as we are continuously providing updates. And also, within the next few weeks, Exec will be taking over the Instagram for a day, showing you guys what a day in our lives look like.
Yes, so make sure you go check that out. If you are interested in going through recruitment and you have not registered yet, we have provided a link on the slides for your convenience, and it's also available on the PHC website and the SJSU student involvement page. If you just Google SJSU Panhellenic, the first link will take you to the page. You'll be able to register for all upcoming events as well as recruitment there. The registration fee has been waived this year because of the pandemic, so we definitely encourage you to go Greek. Thank you so much again for attending this info session, and we hope to see you all in the upcoming events. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Nice.